Hello and welcome to our podcast where I will discuss about issues that our society is facing nowadays. This week, we pick up our story from the previous podcast. Nico and I continued to talk about the first feminist philosophy advocates general meeting, which was hijacked by a group of misogynistic and homophobic people. She told us what happened, what she did after the meeting, and the future of the organization.
So we had our first meeting last, on the February 26th, so about a week and a half ago. And when we were talking about the mission, something happened. Can you tell us what happened on that day?
So, our first ever virtual meeting was hijacked by sexist and homophobic dudes. So we literally had about 6 people, genuine participants of the meeting. In the first 20 minutes, it was great. It was flowing so well. We were talking about our mission and goals and introducing each other. But then after 20 minutes, 25 minutes, a group of people who had very weird usernames started logging into our meeting. And at first I was like, it was not in my headspace that there was, it was like weird people who are coming in. So I was like, okay, I'll give them the chance to introduce themselves. Maybe they're actual participants. So I was like, okay, why don't you introduce yourselves? And they said, oh, my microphone's not working, so maybe I'll introduce myself later. But then as more people came in, they started making weird noises, and then they basically disturbed the whole meeting. We couldn't push through until they started to say a lot of homophobic things and sexist things, like, enough about gay rights, let's talk about gay wrongs. Like, one person literally said that in the meeting. And that's when one of the participants said, like, we're getting trolled. So I was like, oh shit, like, this is happening literally. But it was so unexpected, and these people are a group of extremist people. It was definitely an organized hijacking incident. They knew each other, obviously, and feels like it also involves some stalking, because how in the world can they know our meetings happening on this specific date, you know?
I know that the meeting information was sent to the entire OU community. So yeah, probably that's what they got the information from. And it was very shocking to hear someone saying something like that in an organization meeting. And first of all, who would spend time to just hate other people and join meeting to do stuff like that? But
right. Like, it would have, like, since it was not something we all expected, and we all, even if, if we've put security guidelines on the Zoom, to what extent is that effective? Because we don't know how much effort, like, these people are willing to go and beyond, like, to just harass and disturb our space. Yeah.
And one of them even said that, hey, we just randomly got into your meeting. And I was like, so a group of you just randomly
consecutively
redirected from your meeting to our meeting. Like, that's not
and
really...
some of them bravely had their actual pictures on and their cameras on. So this whole bigotry and hate towards non-binary and women is so normalized in this social political atmosphere here in the US right now. That's why they're super brave to
Right.
act disgustingly,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that college would be a safe space for opinions, but it seems like when you share your opinions, someone is always there to attack you no matter what, which is something that should not have happened on our campus. So you reported that to the Diversity and Inclusion and Gender and Equality Center, right? Yeah. And so what were their response? Did they respond to you yet?
Yes, actually, right after I sent that email, they were very responsive. They so we are actually going to have our meeting next week to discuss how we could better provide space for feminist activists and non-binary people on campus, just to make them feel safer, because
Right.
there's anxiety that comes with knowing how much hate you can get from extremist people like these. So yeah, there's that meeting happening next week for sure, and just discussing how we can go moving forward as an organization that
Yeah.
talks about feminism and equality.
That sounds like a good plan. So with all that happened, did it discourage you from what you are doing right now?
It actually flared my passion.
There you go.
um,
If it didn't happen, I wouldn't do the podcast. So
oh,
yeah,
it just goes to show how much more work there needs
Yeah.
to be done.
yeah,
And we're a fighter, so
yeah. It was such a awakening call for me. So it's
Oh.
like there's a lot
Yeah.
that needs to be done. So
like exactly imagine yourself in the shoes of like us, all of us
Yeah.
who are vulnerable to such stigmatization and violence. When these people are able to mouth their biases, they're able to act on these biases as well. And it goes to show with the statistics of femicide and harassment of LGBTQ people in the US and all around the globe. It's a wake up call, definitely. Yeah.
So you said we will have a meeting next week. But is that just you and the board, or as like an organization?
So I'm thinking that after or even before I get to talk to GEC and DI, I'll schedule another meeting with just members of FemPhil Ad and talk about what happened and what we can do moving forward. Yeah, and it's also International Women's Day on Monday.
March 8th.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a good time to get together and just celebrate that. Yeah.
I think that sounds like a good plan. It seems like we are pushing it through. Yeah. So with the organization going, of course, I hope that people would pay more attention to feminism movement. But there are quite a few misconceptions about the feminist or feminism movement in general, right? And one of them is like, they say feminists are angry and they hate men. What would be your response to that if someone said that, hey, you hate men, that's all?
Yeah, definitely those are the common misconceptions about feminism. About the angry part, the stereotype that we're angry women, I think that goes to show that when women start to derail from the expectations of patriarchy that a woman must be modest, shouldn't be opinionated, shouldn't talk too much or too loud. Like, when we derail from those expectations, they call us certain things like angry, crazy, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, so no matter how we present ourselves, if we start to kind of threaten the status quo of white male superiority, of course they're gonna call us angry. And about being a man hater, come on, like,
That is such a wrong thing to say.
yeah, like who wouldn't love a decent man?
Exactly.
A feminist man who believes in your humanity and individuality. Who wouldn't love that? What we wouldn't love is, of course, a bigot, sexist, homophobic man. That's all I gotta say. That's something separate from being a man hater.
And about the angry part, like, everyone, they have the right to be angry if you tell them what to do, if you don't allow them to use the right that they have. So I don't understand why it is such a thing to say that they are angry. Like, they are oppressed for years. Women were oppressed for years with the voting right, with the right to abortion and so on. And so even if it was me, I would be angry too. So it's not like a bad thing to be angry, because that, to me, it kind of fired the flame to actually fight for their right.
Yes, exactly. When people are feeling threatened about their privilege, they will, of course, try to repress you as much as you can, even with how you express your own rights. So, however they call us, they're gonna call us a lot of things, but we're done. So
we're moving forward.
Yeah.
And another misconception said feminists are not gonna get married.
Oh my god.
This is, if I heard this, I would judge that person so hard. I normally am not a judgy person, but it just doesn't sound like that person is educated at all.
Like it's not anything critical to I wonder where that came from. I think because feminism has long been mostly dominated by, Western white women's perspective, coming from that, side of oppression. They were only advocating for mostly the rights that they thought was
necessary for white women.
If feminism as a movement itself is not perfect, it has mishaps, just because of the intersectionality of our social identity. You can't judge us all on the same playing field of oppression and privilege. We all come from different social powers and contexts. So that's important to think about. But here's why I really think it's important for us to call ourselves feminists. No matter what feminist you are, intersectional, non-binary, or black feminist, or LGBTQ feminist, any feminist you are a feminist. And sometimes I know people hesitate to call themselves feminists just because of the negative connotations that come with it, that feminism is not inclusive of non-binary and black people and other races. It is not a perfect movement, but there's a lot of black feminists and non-binary feminists who are there to really make the whole perspective inclusive. There's ecological feminists. There's a lot of us working to make this whole movement work for the better, and it's important for us to call ourselves feminists to announce the movement, to make it seen as a movement of unionized people.
Right. Yeah, so to me, at the end it bounces back to equality, because we can say that, okay, feminists fight for abortion, but at the same time feminists also fight for the right to carry their pregnancy and to stop the sterilization, unconsensual sterilization. So it's not about telling you what to do, one thing, but to give you the right to choose, to pick what you desire.
It's choice,
for yourself, right?
You're right. Yeah, it's choice.
So at the end, it's your choice. And I think that the movement overall is about treating other people equally, either they are women or men or gay or bi or even trans. So that's bring me to the last question, because we talk a lot about the issues now. What can other people do to support the movements to take that action further?
There's a lot that you can do as an individual, but if I would choose one thing that I think is most important, is to really just examine yourself and your own beliefs, and with that, the willingness to learn about equality, gender equality, feminism, however you might call it, because we always have, as humans, we always have the tendency to think that, or we don't even critically assess ourselves and our beliefs, right? But I think that's dangerous in a lot of other ways. So I think just really trying to assess yourselves and your beliefs, and be willing to be open-minded, learn and unlearn and resist your biases.
And that is a very important point. Like, if you don't know about something, educate yourself, learn about it, and be open-minded to different opinions. Now, you can disagree with us, but just make sure that you share your opinion respectfully, not come in and attack other people or make other people feel bad for themselves, because we all have different values, we all have different opinion, and at the end of the day, we want to share this world together. So thank you so much for answering a lot of my questions.
No, thank you for your time and your dedication on this, and I am super happy to see many of us spreading the word, and we've got a lot of things ahead of us, and I'm super happy you're doing this.
Although the feminist movement had done a lot for women's rights, but there are still a long way to go to make sure that women are treated equally across the globe. I hope this podcast will encourage you to take actions against violence and discrimination, and most importantly, encourage others to take action about the issues that they are facing and what they can do to help. I hope you learn about the movement and the issues relating to feminism from our podcast. I thank you for listening, and I hope you will come back for my future podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and respectfully share your opinions in the comments section below. And remember, never stop learning and sharing.